Thanks for joining me today. It's a question and answer time. I love this time because I really can get to connect with you. I'm really excited about today's segment because I have at least one question out there. I hope you have others to pose to me. And I just want to talk to you about some things that I think are really important. But before we get started, I just want to tell you how grateful we are for the for you taking time on this busy day and coming and joining me for Business Grace. It has been such a wonderful experience coming to you every week and just connecting and getting to hear your feedback and what your frustrations are and how we can help you along your journey through quilting. So, the first thing I wanted to cover, I wanted to share with you a little experience that I had this morning. The engineers and I have our little class, and we have this class where they come in and they are setting products up and using them and quilting. So, what happened this morning is that we had unboxed our little rebels and we had been going through this whole experience, and thank you, Jetlu and Roxanne, for joining me. We've been going through this experience where they had unboxed the machines and put them on the tables, and they had set them all up. They went through the instructions as well, which was real eye-opening. And as they were setting them up and sewing and quilting on it, they run into their own frustrations, just like you, our customers. And so this experience is really literally helping them help you because they understand your process that much better. So cute little Jenna, she was working with the machine and the thread was breaking. And I was just about, because she'd been fighting with it for maybe 20 minutes. And I was ready to get a technician in here and have them go through it. But she said, you know, Karla, wait. If I don't understand and learn how to fix the problems, then I can't write about it. And Jana is part of the technical writing team. She helps write the instructions and how to put the products together, but she wanted to learn from your perspective and understand how things work and how to fix the problems that you face. And that's the challenge that I'd like to pose to you, is that, you know, sometimes there comes a point where we just need to walk away, but she really literally sat there and worked with the machine, and we were finally able to get it so it didn't break the thread. Part of it was tension problems. Part of it was that there was a little burr that was caught someplace on the threading along the path, and by fixing those few things, we were able to make it so, and she was so proud of herself. She was so, and I was really proud. I was really proud that she stuck it out, and she literally worked through the problem and the situation, and really that helped her understand and gave her a better appreciation for you. And thank you for all your input and your feedback. That really helps us. And I just want you to express your appreciation for the engineering team because they're all young kids. They are all, most of them, okay? There's a couple that are older than 30 years old. But what makes me so proud of them is that they are really trying to understand and help make our products better for you. And that is just so cool to see these young kids working so hard for us. And it just makes me really proud. It makes me a proud mom. And so, anyway, I just want to jump in and talk to you about needles, and we're going to talk about bobbins, and again, talk about feet, and using the correct tools for the process or the quilting process that you're creating. But first, let's pull up the one question that I had for this week, and it was about t-shirt quilts. And it was good. I'm so appreciative that she emailed me because I have a lot of advice. And she said, my niece gave me a 9 50 by 50 t-shirt quilts that she would like for me to do an edge-to-edge panto on. None of them have any backing, and she wants them to be quilted on Minky. Any suggestions? And I did. I had a lot of suggestions. First of all, let's talk about the correct needles that you want to use. Now she has a double challenge here. She wanted a minky backing, but she also was using t-shirt fabric. And t-shirt fabric is different. So it calls for the correct needle that we're using. And I went online and I found, because we're using Gross Beckett needles, and I found online a little needle chart that tells you what needle you should be using for which style of fabric. Now, if you want this, I don't know if we can get this downloaded, but I would be more than happy to email this to you if you'd like it. So just email me, Karla with a K, Karla @graceframe.com, or you can go to the Gross Beckett website and pull it and download it yourself. Because it gives you some great information about the different styles of fabric and which needles that they specifically make to work with those. And so that's a great resource that you can use and have. So with t-shirt quilts, because she was using t-shirts and they have a little more open gap, we don't want to use too sharp of a needle because we don't want to break the fibers. So when it penetrates, we want it to have a little blunter tip on it. And so if you'll try and find a little ballpoint needle, that's great for t-shirt quilts. But it will also penetrate the minky, but you might want to use what they call a little sharper ballpoint needle, and I also would suggest that one as well. To go through both layers. Now, as far as having the minky and the t-shirt and all those different, because the t-shirts will have a lot of coloring or dyes that are put on them, and they're a little harder to penetrate. So as you're quilting them, it's really important for you to use your glide foot, or your foot that glides across, because you don't want it to pull the fabric, because we don't want any puckers. And so use the correct foot along with the correct needles. All right, and the needles, that brings me to the needles. So I just want to make sure that we use the correct needle for the threads that we're using, okay? So the thread size determines the needle size that you should use. Our finesse thread calls for a size 18. But when we first started learning about threads, we suggested a size 16. And then as we started understanding more and more and more, then we understood that our thread needed, because it was a little thicker, a little bit bigger hole. And so we went up to the 18. And it's been a great experience. So the finer threads, you'll go to a smaller hole and a smaller hole. So if you're using silks and thread paintings, really look at the suggested needle size from the threads that you're using. Each of them, if they're a good thread company, should have that suggested needle size. All right. Next one I want to talk about, and then we'll jump in and get and get your input or your questions, okay? Oh, you can't hear me? So, all right. So let's just make sure. Can you hear me now? Okay, now it's really loud, sorry. Okay, yes, better? All right, give me a thumbs up. Okay, that's better. They're saying it's better. Okay, do I need to start from the beginning, you guys? Tell me if I need to start from the beginning. I don't have any problems. Maybe I'll put it in a better language or say it better. Okay, the camera is flashing.
Just tell them we're going to pause for a second.
Okay, we're going to pause for just a minute, and then we're going to come back. I'm really sorry, you guys. Yeah, I maybe look better. All right. All right, we good to go, guys? All right.
All right, it was a good pause. Okay, so could you hear anything I talked about with the needle size and the threads? If you didn't, I want to go back and talk about it. Okay, talk about it because I don't want you to miss out on the information that's out there, okay? And I told you could absolutely email me if you want that needle chart from Groats Beckett. I'd be more than happy to send it to you. It's Karla with a K, Karla, at graceframe.com. All right, so let's talk about the needle size. Again, I told you, I told you the first time that you couldn't hear me, that the correct needle is absolutely important for the thread size that you're using. So make sure that you're looking at the website for the threads that you're using and get their suggested needle size. So the thicker the thread, the larger the eye of the needle will be. Okay, the eye that we suggest with our finesse thread is size 18, okay? And if you're going to finer threads like cottons, they love 16s, okay? And then a finer threads like even silks, I would go down to a size 12 or a 14. Try the 14 for thread painting. It's awesome for those finer, more finicky threads that have a tendency to break a lot easier. So make sure that you're checking that out and looking at the website. And if you need any help and need help with anything, you know you can email me. Now, let's talk about the correct foot as well, because we don't want our feet to get caught and pull and tug on these fine, delicate quilts that we're quilting, especially the t-shirt quilts, because they have a tendency to stretch, and if they're stretched, then we're pulling the fibers away, but guess what? They're going to bounce back where they're not quilted, and it's going to create puckers. That's why I want you to use the glide foot. A glide foot is great. It doesn't tug and it doesn't pull. It doesn't get caught on where the seams are. It just glides across the quilt. So look at the glide foot if you don't have one, and even if you're not using our machines, everybody should have a glide foot. Even your domestic machine has a foot that just kind of glides across. So check that out for your machine brand. All right, you're right. It was a strobe effect, Frances, and maybe I should have been dancing with that strobe effect. All right, let's talk about bobbins as well. Okay, so I love pre-wounds. I love pre-wounds for convenience, and they're really easy to grab, but did you know they probably aren't the best experience for quilting that you could have? That's why the metal bobbins are great. So get some of both. These are for when you're in a hurry and you're not really worried about the quality of the stitch. It's maybe for a little baby blanket that's going to be washed and washed and washed and washed. These are great for that. But with all the pre-wounds that you can get, even Filtech or all those pre-wounds, guess what? When you get them, they're overfilled. See? They're filled to the very edge. And so when you put them into the bobbin case, they have a tendency to rub and bind. And so they're not going to pull out of the bobbin case like you need to. So if you're using pre-wounds, I don't care which ones, if they're even for your domestic machine, please pull that excess off, and it's even up to 5 yards, because you need to have a little bit of a lip so that it's not grabbing the edges of your bobbin case. Okay, so I do love pre-wounds, don't get me wrong, but make sure both the top and the bottom are smooth. Okay, see this right here? There's a little nick right here where they pulled this plastic off. Guess what? That little nub, if you have a spring in the bottom of your bobbin case, is going to get caught and the thread's not going to pull out. So make sure you either sand it down or get a little knife and pry it off, but you want to make sure that both sides are smooth. And this is one test that I do make. I'll take my finger and feel across it, because I can get rid of that little nick and use it. Now, I don't use my pre-wounds because they're plastic over and over and over again. Even though they say you can, I don't. I just chuck them out. So You can decide how you want to use them. I feel like they don't get a good enough grip on your post as you're winding them, so they can slide a little bit easier. The metal ones, look what a beautiful wind we're getting. So when you're winding the bobbins, just make sure that you can't get your fingernail through each of the layers, and if it feels squishy, it's too loose. You need to tighten up that tension on your bobbin winder. And these are really the best quilting experience. So if you're entering a quilt into a quilt show, use the metal bobbins. I learned that from the sewing lab because they said they fit in the bobbin case better and they literally make a better stitch. All right, now we've talked about all of those and I've talked about the feet. Let's talk about machine settings, okay? Machine settings are also really, really important as you're quilting. So make sure you're using the correct settings for the designs that you're making. So this is where we're going to experiment just slightly. Regulated precise mode. When I put it in regulated precise mode, it's going to stop when you stop moving. So it gives you a little thinking time, a little hesitation. So I'm going to pull up my threads and notice that I'm using yellow in my bobbin, which is probably what I wouldn't be using if this was an actual quilt, but it's okay for right now. All right, so when we turn it on, I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to start sewing, but if I stop, see, I'm hesitating. What's wrong with regulated precise mode is if you move it slightly out of the spot that you are working in, it's going to have a little bit less consistent stitches, okay? So I like regulated precise mode if I'm making designs that are brand new to me and I need to think about the direction that I'm moving the machine. So it gives you that little hesitation or that little pause so that you can think about, okay, I'm heading off this direction or I need to move back this direction. So that's really important to use the correct mode. Now, regulated precise mode is the preset mode that most quilters will never venture from, okay? Once it's set at regulated precise, they don't want to experiment or try other settings. Please, I give you permission to just move past that and explore. It's what it's all about, is finding what you like, not how Karla likes. Not all the presets are set for you because that's the best way to quilt your project at the time. They're set for you because that's the mode that's most suggested and easier for you to start out in. However, we can change it to cruise mode. So cruise mode, I'm just going to tap on the screen and change it to cruise mode. Now, the difference between regulated precise mode and cruise mode is, notice that once I see how the needle is just constantly moving up and down, so I have no hesitation time whatsoever because it's constantly. I love this mode for making pebbles because it's going to give me extra stitches as I'm moving around it because it's constantly moving up and down. So explore cruise mode and see if you like it. Sometimes I will use cruise mode with rulers because it gives me those extra stitches. I'm sewing, moving back over a stitching line, so it will actually stabilize from the beginning to the end those stitches because the needle's constantly going up and down. In cruise mode, however, you can also turn it on and set the needle mode to go faster or slower. And so explore how fast or how slow you want the needle to go up and down. Okay, I love pebbles. They're something that I've been working on for a long time. So explore cruise mode. I like cruise mode as well for stitching feathers out, and I will stitch my feathers out with an open toe foot because we're going back over a stitching line, so the open toe actually gives you a better visual of where your needle is so that you can make sure that you're on that same stitching line that you're sewing across. All right, so next we have base mode. Okay, and manual mode. So manual mode, a lot of quilters, because they like stitch regulation, are so afraid of. And this is another place I'd really like for you to experiment and try. So manual mode, when you turn on, it's just going to go, but it's a little smoother feel. Some quilters like it, others don't. But sometimes I feel like I have a little bit more control taking it out of stitch regulation than I do when it's in a stitch regulated mode. So explore those different modes, have fun, play with the speed, also play with the SPIs, that's the stitches per inch, as you're quilting. And then just work on your skills. So I wanted to show you what happened. A couple little things before I end today. When I came to this machine, I was doing my stitch off to test it out, okay? And as I was sewing along, I noticed, I just want you to see right here, okay, I'm going to put it back here, what happens. So as I was stitching along, the threads I knew that something was going on underneath, so I felt underneath, and man, I just had like shaggy thread tails, and this is what it looked like underneath. All right, and I went back and I looked because I thought, you know what, it's the threading. And I went back here and I tried it again, and it still didn't feel good. Okay, so I came back and I looked at the threading again because I knew it had to do with the threading and the tension. I knew my top tension was off, but guess what had happened? Okay, I want to pull my hands like this. It was sitting right here. The thread was just anchored right here. It hadn't been pulled through. So you just need to pull it through. So all these little stitches, guess what they're going to be like underneath? They're going to be shag underneath, and it's not going to look good. So pull your thread, and then once I had done that, I want you to see how pretty the tension looks. But then you can see my stitching line as I'm moving across, how much nicer it looks. Even tension that's pulling that knot just looks so much better. So even an experienced quilter can have a problem identifying what's going on. You just need to step back, look it over, and think about what's happening on your machine, what's happening underneath, and then ask yourself this question: did I do everything correctly? Well, I actually hadn't threaded the machine myself, but it looked right, and so I didn't think about checking this. Most of the time, we get in a real hurry and we forget to pull the thread through the disc. It can look correct and it can give you enough tension that it feels okay, but actually this is a lot tighter. So now as I'm quilting, I'm going to get a prettier stitch, and it's going to look a lot nicer. See how much better? You're not seeing the bottom come up quite as much. So I'm just going to move back over here. I know we're in manual mode, but I really feel like my stitches look that much nicer, and I know the bottom of my quilt's going to look that much better. All right, so any questions out there? Now's the time. Let's stump Karla. Okay. All right, let's see. All right. Judy is asking, can your machines use needles other than the ones that come with the machine? Yes, as long as they have the rounded shaft and they're made for a long arm machine, okay? So even the little Rebel, it uses these needles as well. So the shaft right here is completely round. It's unlike your domestic machines, okay? It doesn't have a flat spot. This area right here on the needle is completely rounded. So it's easy for us to get the needle put in incorrectly or the hole off to one side or the other because it doesn't have that flat spot. So just make sure that it's a quilting needle and you won't have any problems with it. Okay. All right. Any other questions out there? I think there was one other one. All right. Okay, somebody's having difficulty, JetLou is having difficulty with the stitches being too tiny without stitch regulation. I'm moving on my carriage too fast. Do I need to slow down? No. Okay, so what's happening, okay, is when you turn it on and you're in manual mode, you don't have any stitch regulation at all. So we're in manual mode. So this is a good time to show you what's happening on your quilt. So when I turn it on, I have it set at 30%. If you're using, you won't be using the stitch regulator. So what's happening is that actually I'm just moving it too slow. So if I'm moving it slower, I need to slow my machine down, okay, to get larger stitches, okay? So now as I'm moving it, I'm going to get a little bit larger, and if I move it too fast, I'm going to get bigger stitches. So if you're getting teeny tiny stitches, slow down your machine and move it a little faster until you get that little sweet spot. Use the buttons or turn the machine up or start moving it with the foot pedal. However you're doing it, give it a little more power and start moving it a little faster. Practice with your circles first. Okay, so now I've got them down. Now I can start speeding up. And you'll find that little zone that you're just getting the push and the pull just right. See, as I'm coming around, I got a little bigger, so I know I needed to slow it down. And then you'll get a more even pace. You'll become the stitch regulation on your quilt. So you're moving it too slow and you have it up too fast, okay? That's why you're getting those teeny tiny stitches. So slow it down and start moving a little faster to lengthen out that stitch. I hope that helps, and I really want you to go and practice that. Okay, all right, okay. How do you switch off the free motion with to free motion with QCT6? That is an excellent question, okay? That one, I want to send you my information of how to, first of all, you're going to loosen the bottom belt. Just loosen it, okay? You're not going to take it out or anything like that. That's the long belt that goes across your frame. All right, the top belt is the key. And I don't want you to take it out of the motor plate. I just want you to release it from both ends. You have a bracket across it, okay? And it's attached to that bracket at both ends. So if you will take the belt out of the front and the back end and tack it down onto your carriage, then you can free motion, and it takes you less than 2 minutes to put it all back or take it off. So it's really easy, but email me, that's Karla with a K, K-A-R-L-A, and I'll specifically send you some instructions on how to attach, detach that top belt, but I don't want you to take it all the way out. All right, my last little challenge for you, okay? Thanks everybody for your questions, and I have a little something I want you to work on this week. As you're working on skills and skill building, I feel like that muscle memory is just key. And so, my challenge to you is to write the alphabet, okay? Just from beginning to end, small letters, and then I want you to try it going backwards. And I want you to work on writing backwards as much as you can. That will really help you remember the path and get your mind working in other areas that are really difficult for us to sometimes grasp. So, try that, and you can tell me next time how good it was or how awful it was. And I love to hear from you, so email me. And thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you bearing with us. You take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.